You are listening to Small Business Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives small business owners the straight talk on productivity, time management, business systems, leading your teams, strategic decision-making, and mindset. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the productivity specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. Today is episode 394, Hidden Revenue Leaks Part 1, Digging Deeper to Uncover Profits. If you're a small business owner who wants to learn effective business strategies, improve time management, and elevate productivity to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Are you working harder than ever but not seeing the revenue results you want? What if I told you that you could be losing tens of thousands of dollars annually through invisible leaks you don't even know exist? Most business owners think that they need more clients, but the real problem is much deeper than that. Stick around because today I'm going to talk you through the 5 levels of revenue leaks that compound into massive losses year after year. We're going to go way beyond the surface level advice everyone gives, and I'm going to show you exactly why most fixes don't actually fix anything. This is part 1 of our Hidden Revenue Leaks series, and by the end of today's episode, you'll see your business in a completely different way. And before we jump into today's episode, I want to invite you to take my Next Level Business Owner quiz. If you've not already done so, please take 3 short minutes to take this quiz and find out what's holding you back from taking your business to the next level. After you take this quiz, you will get a curated playlist of specific episodes that address your specific challenges in your business. And in those episodes, you will be sure to get actionable strategies that you can implement and see results right away. Head on over to amberdelagarza.com/quiz. Again, that's amberdelagarza.com/quiz. And now let's get to the straight talk. Are you one of those business owners who's constantly busy, but wondering why your bank account doesn't reflect all that hard work? If you're nodding right now, I want you to consider the possibility that you do not have a revenue problem, you have a revenue retention problem. Most business owners think that they need more clients to fix their money issues. But what if I told you that you could be losing thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of dollars annually through invisible leaks you don't even know exist? Today, we're going beyond the surface level advice everyone gives about pricing and boundaries. We're digging deeper into the 5 levels of revenue leaks that compound into massive losses year after year. And I'm going to show you exactly why most quote-unquote fixes don't actually fix anything. This is part 1 of a 2-part series on hidden revenue leaks. Today is all about helping you see what you're missing. Next week, I'll be sharing with you real client stories showing you exactly how these leaks show up and what we did to plug them. Let's get real about what you're actually selling. Can I be straight with you about something? When you own a service-based business, all you are ever selling is time. I know. You might be thinking, you are wrong, Amber. You don't know. I sell a high-end service offering. But Amber, I'm selling marketing strategies. But Amber, I'm selling beautiful spaces. But Amber, I'm an attorney. I do law. But Amber, you don't understand. And here's the thing. Yes, there's a service or a delivery involved in your business because you are a service-based business owner. But what does it take to actually create that outcome for your clients? Like universally, every single time, when you deliver that service or that service delivers even an outcome, what is it that it takes? It takes your time. And look, it's your time, your team's time. It's either your time as the business owner, or perhaps you've built a team to have more leverage and it's someone else's time that you're paying for. You pay for your team members' time so that they can invest their time to then deliver the service. Whether you're a consultant, designer, attorney, real estate agent, or any other service provider, time is your only inventory. And just like a retail store would freak out about inventory walking out the door, we need to get serious about where our time inventory is disappearing. Most business owners are thinking about projects completed or clients served, but they're completely missing the true time cost of those deliverables. Picture this. You think you spent 1 hour in a client meeting, but did you really? The 30 minutes you spent preparing beforehand? Those follow-up emails that took another 15 minutes? The drive time to their house or their office or on site? How about the mental space that you spent thinking through their challenges so that you are able to solve those challenges for your clients? This is where the disconnect happens. You're charging for an hour, but you just invested 2+ hours of your life. See the problem? Let me show you what this looks like in real dollars. Say you think that you're spending 1 hour per client meeting, but it's actually 2.5 when you include all the prep time and follow-up time and thinking time. If you do this twice a week at $150 an hour, that's $300 in invisible time weekly. Again, $300 probably doesn't sound like that much, but doing it weekly adds up to $15,600 annually that you are not capturing. Because here's the thing about when we are selling time or trading our time is that I can't trade that same time. If I've given it to one client, I can't also give it to another. And that is true through the lens of you are the business owner trading time, or if you have a team member that you have hired that is trading that time. So that 1 hour that you charged for, or that 1 hour that you thought, oh, it's just 1 hour client meeting, turned into actually 2.5 hours, that's an hour and a half that you are no longer available. That inventory is taken off the shelf and cannot be sold to anybody else because it is used. It is no longer able to be sold. And think about it. That was the simplest of examples that I gave you. That is just one type of meeting. Multiply this across all your services. Multiply this across all of your deliverables or tasks that it takes to deliver those deliverables. I want to explain this through two lenses because chances are, if you're listening, you're in one of these two camps. And I got to tell you that if you are charging hourly, you're probably like, yeah, Amber might be onto something here. But if you charge flat rate, does this still matter to you? And I'm here to tell you, absolutely yes. Both hourly and flat rate providers get this wrong all the time. If you bill hourly, you're probably tracking the official meeting time, right? You're logging the hour. But what about all the other time that it took for the prep time, the drive time, the follow-up time? Are you logging that to the client, to the project? I hope you are. But many times I see that that is not the case because we rationalize and we say things like, well, the client's not going to pay me for all that other time if they're paying me for the meeting time. Or maybe you are thinking you told them it would cost X or it would take X hours, but if you're constantly underestimating how long things actually take, Where are you accounting for that time, even if you're hourly? Writing off legitimate hours before the total, right? Like, because it feels too high. If you sent an invoice to a client for a 2-hour meeting and you know that it took you 3.5, you probably can see it even if you log the 3.5, but your mind says, that feels too high. They're not going to pay me for all the other things because that's not my expertise I'm selling. Why would they pay that rate for my drive time? Why would they pay that rate for the follow-up email time? Why would they pay that rate for the prep time? And you can see how this becomes a very slippery slope, even for billing hourly. But if you're billing and charging flat rate, perhaps you're billing that flat rate based off of your best case scenario. Like, this is exactly how many hours the deliverable and the project should take, best case. And I'm here to tell you that rarely ever happens that a project goes from A to Z delivered and it went exactly as expected. In fact, being so optimistic and flat rate backfires because what we want to know is, what does it actually take? Not what it should, quote unquote, should take. In a perfect world, when everything is right and everybody is trained and everybody is hired and there is no changes and there's clear communication, I'm telling you, there is a lot of risk in flat rate. Now, stay tuned because we are going to be diving into why I think that it can work in both hourly and flat rate, where we solve all of these revenue leaks. It is not one model is better than the other. You just need to understand your business model and understand what those risks are to ensure that you are plugging all of these leaks. If you're charging flat fee, another challenge that comes up often is that you're not fully clear about the scope of what it actually takes to deliver what has been promised. That you are often absorbing any overruns instead of figuring out why they keep happening. So when your mind says this thing should have taken 40 hours and it keeps coming in at 50 or 57 or 65 hours, and this is if you're being really good about tracking your time, why are you always absorbing the overrun? And in fact, calling it an overrun is probably the challenge. If that's what the data shows, is it actually that might be what it realistically takes to deliver that service? Possibly. Does any of these scenarios I just shared with you sound familiar? Let's dive in. I want to cover what the real cost is to you. When you miss this time-money connection, you end up in an exhausting cycle of taking on more work to make up for the revenue you're losing. And in fact, this is that low-hanging fruit that when we are having cash flow issues, we're having profitability issues, we're having revenue issues, any of those, our brain says, oh my gosh, we need more clients. We need more clients. We need more clients. But if you're already running in overdrive, you're redlining, you're working more hours than you care to, your team is completely maxed out, your business is in chaos, how is throwing more clients at this problem going to actually fix it? It won't. I've never seen throwing more clients at this problem actually fix it. In fact, I'm going to tell you that throwing more clients at a profitability issue, in fact, multiplies and makes that profitability issue even bigger. You're burning yourself out trying to squeeze in more into the same hours. And you're wondering why you're constantly busy, but your bank account is not reflecting it. And when you're wondering why you're working so damn hard and your bank account is not reflecting it, it is a really quick, direct path to burnout, because it becomes this constant loop and this chatter of, I'm burning myself out, and for what reason? Like it's a burden to my family, or it's not getting me any closer to my personal goals, or owning this business is creating more stress in my personal life because I don't have the profitability to take home a salary that can support my lifestyle or my home, my family, or the other things that even matter to you. But I'm going to say it again. You don't have a revenue problem. You have a retention problem. And it all starts with understanding that time leaks equal money leaks. So let me ask you this. Are you really tracking your time accurately? Are you seeing the full picture of what each client or project actually costs you? Because I'm willing to bet if you saw the real numbers, you'd be pretty shocked. In fact, most business owners live in denial. They live in this place where they want to be incredibly optimistic about what it actually takes to deliver the service. And it comes from a good place. Like I say this, I've said this in multiple episodes recently. Thinking this way is not necessarily bad. It's just not dealing in reality. And so it's creating more stress and chaos in your business. Understanding that time equals money is just the beginning. Once you grasp that connection, you're ready to see the specific places where your business is bleeding revenue, aka time. Let's dig into the 5 levels of revenue leaks that most business owners miss. Most business owners talk about revenue leaks at the surface level, and then they wonder why their quote unquote fixes don't actually fix the problem. Today, I want to take you deeper than most people are willing to go. We're going to peel back 5 layers of revenue leaks from the most obvious ones everyone's talking about, all the way down to the less obvious, often overlooked, and even foundational issues that most people never even consider. Think of this like diagnosing why your house is so cold. Of course, most people are going to check if the window's open. We'll call that level 1, the obvious fix. But let's say you close the windows and the house is still cold. So you go a little deeper. Maybe the thermostat is set too low, or there's drafts under the door. You fix those issues and the house gets a little warmer, but it's still not warm enough. So you dig even deeper, and it turns out that the insulation in the walls is old and thin and not doing its job. And you add more insulation, and that helps, but you're still not where you want to be. Going deeper still, you discover the ductwork has leaks, so heated air is escaping before it even reaches your rooms. You seal those leaks, and now you're getting a lot closer. But then you realize the real foundational issue. There are cracks in the foundation letting cold air seep out through the floors. Until you fix that foundational problem, everything else you've done is just minimizing the damage, not solving the real issue. Each level you fix helps a little, but you needed to address all the levels to actually have a warm house. That's exactly what's happening with your revenue leaks in your business. The first level that we're going to talk about today is pricing, scope, and boundary breakdowns. This is where most people start, and unfortunately, where most people stop. This is about clients getting more than they pay for because you haven't clearly defined or defended your boundaries. You know and have experienced this leak if you've ever had a client ask for just one more small revision that turned into 3 hours of work for you or your team. Or you found yourself working till 10 p.m. to meet an unrealistic last-minute move in the deadline that you agreed to because, of course, you want happy clients. Imagine you are a graphic designer and you quote a logo design for $2,000. The client asks for the logo in a few more formats. And 2 weeks later, your team has created 15 variations, 3 color schemes, and a brand style guide that was never part of the original scope. Your team has now spent 20 additional hours, but you haven't charged a penny more because it came in as, can I just have one small revision that led to another and another? And next thing you know, you had no boundaries, clearly scope creep, or maybe the scope was never clearly defined for that $2,000. Now, that might be a little bit extreme going from a $2,000 deliverable to 20 additional hours. But let's think about this in another way. Your business is working for free on everything beyond the original scope. And if you don't know what that scope is and you can't hold and defend that boundary, or your client doesn't know what that scope is, this is going to happen time and time again. And if this same or similar scenario plays out just twice a month, you could be losing thousands of dollars a month. This is the most talked about revenue leak because it's the most obvious. Everyone's talking about boundaries, including me, because obvious doesn't necessarily mean that it's not important. In fact, I'm going to tell you, obvious means it is important. You want to make sure you have these boundaries, that you understand what your scope is, that you understand what the value is, the deliverable for the pricing that you're pricing. And I've got a couple episodes for you. So if you are dealing with boundary breakdowns, then you can head on over and listen to, and we'll link out to all of this in the show notes. I have episode 177, 3 Steps to Making Your Business Boundaries Successful. And then we have episode 138, where I talked to Melissa Morris, how to stop your clients from trampling your boundaries. 2 of these are really great episodes. We also have more that you can find over at amberdelagarza.com/podcast. And I just have one more note about this level. I did name this pricing, scope, and boundaries. So I do have something to say about pricing. What I find is that when we have a revenue issue or we have fundamentally a profitability issue, it is so easy to point the finger and call it a pricing issue. And you may have people in your ear. You may have a significant other, a loved one, a friend, maybe even colleagues, or unfortunately, sometimes even business coaches that are saying, just up your prices. And I'm going to tell you that that is putting a Band-Aid on a bigger issue. It's like trying to cover up the leak of a boat with Band-Aids, literally. The water is going to seep through over and over again. And in fact, you could be doing more harm to your business by pricing yourself out of the market, or you're not competitive any longer. And the quick and dirty fix of changing your prices is not going to have sustainable change in your business. So let's dive deeper. Fixing your pricing, if it's truly a pricing issue, and your boundaries will definitely help. But if you're still seeing revenue issues after addressing this level, we need to dig deeper. Most people stop at pricing issues, but if you dig a little deeper, you're going to find the second level, time tracking and billing gaps. This is where the actual time you and your team spend do not match what actually gets captured and billed to the client. These are the hours that disappear into thin air. Research time, administrative tasks related to the project, and all the quote unquote quick activities that add up but never get tracked. Here's a common scenario. Your business completes a website project. What gets tracked and billed? Well, the 20 hours of actual design and development work. What doesn't get tracked? The initial research phase, 2 hours, 3 separate client check-ins, an hour and a half, file organization and backup, 30 minutes, and the final quality review before the delivery by, most likely, you, the business owner. Total unbilled time per project, 5. That's being incredibly conservative. If you complete 2 projects monthly, that's 10 hours of unbillable time. Annual revenue leak adds up to 120 hours times, we're going to go with $150 an hour. That's $18,000. But here's the bigger problem. Even when you do track this time, because you're like, yeah, Amber, I actually track all my time. Of course, I'm going to be tracking research. Of course, I'm going to be tracking those check-ins and file organization and backup. Okay, and I hear you. Maybe you are in that ballpark. But if you were tracking all that time, many business owners write it off because it quote unquote feels excessive. Is that happening to you? I hope it's not, but my experience tells me that it is more likely that it is happening. You see those extra 5 hours that are not exactly related to the website development, and you start thinking things like, that is too much to charge for a simple website update or a simple website strategy. Really, will the client want to charge for file organization and backup? And if my team was really trained well, do I need to be reviewing before delivery? And maybe I don't need to, or maybe I shouldn't. So I don't think I will charge for that 1 hour of me being the highest level, best expert in the company, reviewing the project for quality control before it goes out the door. And you may hear a little bit of my sarcasm here saying, of course they should be paying you for your eyes on it to do a final quality check. That is the high-end delivery that you want to give to your clients. But unfortunately, I hear things like this all the time. Will the client actually want to pay? And I have to tell you that you are leaving so much money on the table and you are working far harder than you need to be because you are not valuing everything that it takes to go into delivering the service that you deliver. Addressing boundary issues from level 1 will definitely help, and they're important. But you can have perfect boundaries and still lose significant money if you are not capturing and billing for the true time investment to deliver your services. Next, we're going to go even deeper. The third level is the service delivery blind spot, where you and your team don't actually know what your service delivery process requires. So you constantly underestimate scope and time. And again, this is for whether you are hourly or flat rate, because even hourly, oftentimes those come with proposals that say, we're hourly, but we estimate this will take 25 hours. We estimate this will take 40 hours. And now you have this kind of container or cap. And if you don't know what it actually takes to deliver your services, how did you come up with that number? Whether, again, you're hourly and you quoted an estimate of hours, or your flat rate and you came up with a dollar amount divided by your hourly rate, you still came up with a number of hours that you thought it would take to deliver the service. Here's a perfect example. You offer brand strategy consulting and quote clients $5,000 thinking it's about 20 hours of work. But you've never actually mapped out every step that's involved. And the reality means that you may have not accounted for all of the actions, activities, deliverables, communication, conversations that it takes to deliver that service. For example, the initial discovery call, 2 hours. Competitive research, 4 hours. And that's a great example too. So you say competitive research. Are you telling your team members that they have 4 hours to complete competitive research? Or do you just have it as an action item in the process that says competitive research and it's open-ended and they can spend 2 or they can spend 10? But you, when you made the proposal, were thinking 4. Is there a disconnect there? Do we know that it actually takes 4 hours to do a complete competitive research? Audience analysis, another 3 hours. Brand positioning workshop, 3 hours. Strategy documentation creation, 6 hours. Presentation prep, 2 hours. Client presentation and revisions, 4 hours. And you know what I did not even include in here are phone calls and email messages between each milestone or deliverable between you and the client. So in this example where I did not include the latter, this adds up to 20 hours. Or does it? You thought it added up to 20 hours. But what it actually requires is 24, and you underestimated the project by 4 hours. And simply 4 hours, I'm going to tell you this is a conservative example that I'm giving. And in fact, if you were off by 4 hours in most projects, I might be like, that's not that bad. It depends on the price point, right? 4 hours and a $5,000 offering, that is quite a lot. But say your offering is far more. Is it a $20,000 offer? Is it a $50,000 offer? Are these long-term engagements with your clients, these service offerings? I guarantee you are far more than 4 hours. So in this example, you underestimate your project by 4 hours. If you complete 3 brand strategy projects a quarter, at $5,000 each, that's about 12 hours of unbillable work per quarter. And you know where I'm going with this, annually, it's 48 hours. At $250 an hour, you're losing $12,000 per year because you don't know what it actually takes for the offer you're selling, the service that you're selling. Again, I'm using conservative numbers here of just 4 hours of being off on something that you thought should take 20 and it took 24. And you can see how quickly it adds up that you're leaving money on the table. And as a reminder, the unexpected, right? Those phone calls, the revision requests potentially, the emails, you're saying those are surprises, but they aren't actually surprises. They are, in fact, very predictable parts of the process that you haven't acknowledged or potentially even priced in to your services. You can have great boundaries. You can even have accurate time tracking. But if you don't understand what your services actually require, you're still underestimating and underpricing consistently. And just one more note here, because you might be thinking, so how does this actually affect me if I'm an hourly business model? Well, look, if you quoted somebody 20 hours and it took 24 hours and you have no problem with actually charging 24 hours, good, there's not a problem. However, what I actually see in practice and in real life is that 4 hours becomes really negotiable because it's an awkward conversation that most people are willing to pay for a mere $1,000. So say you charge $250 an hour, it's 4 hours, it's $1,000. You're thinking, that's a conversation I'd rather not have. I'm going to write those hours off. Well, you can do that. And in the moment, it seems like $1,000, but what does that actually mean to your bottom line or ultimately your profit that you get to take home to your family when you do that or have that habit over and over again? And the other cost that, while we're not talking about here, but I think is important to say, is that if you are consistently overcharging, quote unquote, overcharging from you predicted it should take 20, it took 24, you charge your client 24, maybe that 4 hours is here or there. It doesn't really matter. But most people don't charge that because they don't want their clients to feel a certain way. And I get it. Like, that is very true. We don't want our clients to have a bad taste in their mouth. We don't want them to not send us a referral. We don't want them not to come back. And ultimately, those are revenue generating activities. So when the client has a good experience and they are billed and charged what they were expecting to be billed and charged for the services rendered, that may mean they send referrals. That may mean they come back for services again, which do affect revenue. So you kind of have to pick your poison. But what I would rather have is that you are charging for what it actually takes to deliver the service. You're setting that expectation early and often, and that you can deliver that service in a profitable way to your business and in a way that your client said yes to. And so you get to retain the profits because you charged correctly, and they're happy, and they send you business, and they become repeat customers. That's a win-win for me. I just wanted to play that all out because it's not as simple as, great, it's 24 hours, just charge 24 hours. If that was how easy it was, none of us would have revenue leaks. Let's move on to level number 4, operational efficiencies that drain profits. We're going deep. This 4th level is operational inefficiencies. This is where poor systems and processes make everything take longer than it should, creating hidden time costs. Let's say your team onboards a new client. No matter your service, we all have an onboarding process. With good systems, this should take 2 hours. Rinse and repeat. Every client in gets onboarded the exact same way, and it is running like a well-oiled machine. 2 hours. But what might be actually happening in your business is that it takes 30 minutes because you're hunting for the client intake form. And then 20 minutes figuring out which version is correct, or maybe what version of your contract is correct, or your proposal. 45 minutes manually entering information into 3 different systems that do not talk to each other. 30 minutes creating project folders because, well, there's no templates for those folders. And another 15 minutes trying to remember what information goes to each team member to get the project started. What should have taken 2 hours is actually taking 3.5 hours. And the efficiency leak per client, so every client that you have, is 1.5 hours in inefficient processes and systems. So if you onboard just 4 new clients monthly, that's 6 hours of wasted time each month, or 72 hours annually. And at $150 an hour, these inefficiencies cost your business $10,800 in lost productivity. And that is just onboarding. Multiply this across every other recurring process in your business. You are seeing this happen, whether you're looking for it or not. And when I say seeing it, I mean experiencing it. We're talking about actual revenue leaks, thus profit leaks. But this kind of situation actually creates stress for you and your team. So if you're feeling overworked and working after hours or too much, I've said this example before, or your team seems frazzled because they're at max capacity, it could be because you have inefficiencies. So not only is this actually costing dollars, this is causing stress throughout your business. You can have great boundaries, accurate time tracking, and understand what your service requires. But if your operations are inefficient, everything takes longer than it should, which eats away at your hard-earned profits. At the deepest level, the 5th level, we have the business model delivery mismatch. This is where your entire business model is fundamentally misaligned with how you actually deliver value. This level is particularly insidious because it can affect businesses that have everything figured out. You can have perfect boundaries, accurate time tracking, clear service delivery processes, and efficient operations. But if your business model doesn't match your delivery reality, you're still leaving money on the table. The most common mismatch I see is billing hourly when you should be charging flat rate, or charging flat rate when you should be billing hourly. Take legal services as an example. It's a perfect example. Some legal work is highly predictable. Creating wills, setting up basic trusts, handling name changes, or forming LLCs. These processes have clear, documented steps with predictable timelines. An attorney who bills hourly for a simple will is leaving money on the table because they're being penalized for their efficiency and expertise. But other legal work is completely unpredictable. Divorce cases where you never know if it's going to be an agreeable agreement or a 2-year battle. Criminal defense where new evidence can change everything, or business litigation where the opposing counsel strategy is unknown. An attorney charging flat fees for divorce cases is absorbing all the risk. One contentious divorce can wipe out profits from 3 easy ones. The key is matching your pricing model to your process predictability. If you have well-documented, efficient processes for predictable work and you're still billing hourly, you're being penalized for your efficiency. The better you get at your job, the less money you will make per project. But if you have unpredictable processes with unknown variables and you're charging flat fees, you're absorbing all the risk instead of sharing it appropriately with the client. Here's the thing. You can address levels 1 through 4 and see real improvements in your revenue retention. But if your entire business model is fundamentally misaligned with your delivery reality, you're still going to have ongoing revenue issues. This foundational mismatch creates systematic pressure that makes the other leaks much harder to fix permanently. Most business owners patch surface level leaks without addressing deeper ones. They raise prices but don't fix delivery blind spots. They improve time tracking but ignore operational efficiencies across their business. That's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken pipe. The water just finds another way out. And here's what makes it expensive. These leaks compound each other. Business model mismatch creates delivery blind spots. Those blind spots lead to operational efficiencies. Inefficiencies make time tracking harder across your team. Poor time tracking makes boundary issues worse. It's not 5 separate problems. It's 5 interconnected problems that make each other worse throughout your business. Here's the reality. These revenue leaks are costing you far more than you think. We're not talking about losing a few $100s here or there. We're talking about 5-figure and 6-figure compounded year after year. The business owners who figure this out systematically address these issues. They're the ones who finally break through to sustainable profitability without working more hours. In part 2 of this series next week, I'm going to share real client stories that show exactly how these leaks showed up in different businesses and the specific steps we took to plug them. Because while awareness is the first step, you need to see how this actually plays out in the real world. I hope these insights have helped you start seeing your business differently. The potential for recovering lost revenue is significant, but it requires looking deeper than most people are willing to go. Here's what I want you to walk away from today's episode with. Your service business is more profitable than you think. You're just not capturing all the revenue you're generating. We've covered two critical insights. First, understanding that time truly is inventory and recognizing where that inventory is disappearing. And second, seeing the 5 levels of revenue leaks that most business owners never address, from the obvious surface level issues all the way down to the foundational business model problems. Remember, these aren't 5 separate problems, they're interconnected issues that compound each other. That's why surface level fixes don't work. You patch one leak and the revenue just finds another way out. The business owners who break through to sustainable profitability, they're the ones willing to dig deeper than everyone else. They look beyond the obvious and address the foundational issues that create lasting change. Next week in part 2, I'm sharing real client stories that show exactly how these principles play out in actual businesses. You'll see how we identified specific leaks and the tactical steps that plug them for good. The potential for recovering lost revenue in your business is significant, but it requires looking deeper than most people are willing to go. And that is exactly what separates successful business owners from those who stay stuck. And if you want to tackle another area of your business that has potential leaks, I think you should go listen to episode 358, How I Saved $5,000 in 2 hours by Doing a Subscription Audit. This episode shows you exactly how to audit your technology and tools expenses, i.e., all those subscriptions, and other places where your money quietly disappears. We'll be sure to link out to that in the show notes as well. I have loved having you listen to this episode of the Small Business Straight Talk podcast, and I sure hope you have found it to be valuable, but I need to be straight with you. No change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So here's my challenge for you today. Pick just one of the 5 revenue leaks that we talked about today and honestly evaluate where it might be showing up in your business. And I do not want you to try and fix everything at once. That is never the answer. I want you to identify where it's showing up and just start by seeing what you haven't been seeing before. And then tune into next week's episode where I'm going to be giving you real tactical examples of how we did this in multiple businesses with multiple business owners. And if you are thinking that this episode was talking to you and you're like, I know I have revenue and profitability leaks, but I think having someone neutral, third party from the outside with experience seeing this for over a decade would be really helpful to my business, then I invite you to check out my coaching program. You can learn more and book a discovery call by heading on over to amberdelagarza.com/coaching. And if you are new here, I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to share it with a fellow business friend and let them know that another episode is coming next week in this series. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.